Well, welcome back, fifth grade. I thought we'd try this video thing again. Hopefully, you are all tuning in. Thought I'd play a little 80s music in the background. Hopefully, that's not too distraction. Just let me know. We're listening to the Cars right now, but I think it's going to shuffle through a bunch of 80s songs. Looking at a place value chart here, moving into Unit 3, Lessons 4 and 5, but I just wanted to review this place value chart. Again, taking a good look at the ones place, tens, hundreds, thousands. So you're multiplying by 10 when you move to the left. You're dividing by 10 when you move to the right. But once they move to the right of the decimal, it's no longer tens, hundreds, and thousands. It's tenths, hundredths, and thousands with that THS at the end. So if you look at just the number 1, 1 times 10 is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. But when you move to the right, the 1 divided by 10 is 1/10. 1/10 divided by 10 is 1/100. And 1/100 divided by 10 is 1,000. So this 1 at the very end is in the thousandths place. It's the same thing with money down here. $1, $10, $100, $1,000, 10 cents, 1 cent, and then this is the 1,000ths. Um, Moving on to tonight's lesson in your black notebook, please copy down page 91, and we're going to get started here. First thing it has us doing is kind of walking through summarizing dividing by 0.1, and it goes to say dividing by 0.1 gives you a number 10 times the original number. So 79.6 divided by 0.1 is really like saying 10 times 79.6. When you multiply a number times 10 and it has a decimal, it just moves the decimal one place to the right. So 796. Dividing by 0.1 is equivalent to multiplying by 10 because there are 10 small parts, tenths, in each whole. Down below here it has looking at problem number 1 here, discuss and explain. Dividing by 0.1 is the same as multiplying by 10. Discuss the reason for each numbered step. So here you have 79.6 over 0.1 is equivalent to 79.6 over 0.1 times 1. 79.6, 0.1 times 10 over 10. 79.6 times 10, 0.1 times 10, and you end up with that same number of 796 over 1, or 796. Number 2 goes on to say multiply a problem in long division format by 1. By 1, which is 10 over 10, gives an equivalent problem with a whole number divisor. So what they're showing you is here, when you have a division problem, when you have a decimal outside of the house and inside of the house, 0.1 into 79.6, you move the decimal one place to the right, which would be multiplying by 10. But what you do outside, you must do inside. So the 79.6, you move the decimal one place to the right, and now it's really 1 into 796. So down below it says the same thing here. The process in exercise 2 can be used to change any decimal divisor to a whole number, using the method to rewrite each problem with a whole number divisor. 0.4, 2.7. They're telling you move the decimal to the right, you move the decimal to the right, so it's really 4 into 27. 72.5 into 0.39 really becomes 725 into 3.9. 2.7 into 9 really becomes 27, and then you move the decimal one place, 27 into 90. And then the last one, letter D here, 6.3 into 52 really becomes 63. Move the decimal one place into 520. And then it goes on, it says what makes part C and D of exercise 3 trickier than the others, and it says you have to put a 0 on the end of the number to show one more decimal. So you have to, in math they call it annex, you have to add this 0 right here and this 0 right here. And that's what makes it more difficult. All right, so let's just do a couple of these. Let's just isolate number 5 here. So I'm just going to copy it on to its own page here, and then we'll take care of number 5. Hopefully it copies. There we go. All right, so let's look at, let me just stretch this a little bit. Lock that into place. All right, so in your black notebook, please copy 5, 0.3 into 9. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply that by 10, and then what you do outside, you must do inside. When there's not a decimal present like in 9, it's always there. It's to the right of the last digit. And I'm just going to annex a 0 or add a 0 here because I'm going to need that. I'm going to draw this line a little bit bigger. But I'm really going to be moving it over one place to the right. So your division problem really now becomes 3 into 90. I always like to bring my decimal up right away so I don't forget it, and I would encourage you to do the same. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 0 3 times. And your final answer then would be 30. Okay? Let's take a look at one more, maybe a little bit more difficult. Let's go back. Let's look at, say, number 8. So in your black notebook, copy down number 8. I'm going to go ahead and do the same here. All right, so here we have 2.2 into 0.88. Okay? Again, the first thing you want to do is, if you think of it as multiplying by 10, so really this problem becomes 22 into 8.8. Because if you look over here, we move this one place to the right, and we move that one place to the right. What we do to the outside, we must do to the inside. Okay? So now you have 22 going into 8, and notice I brought my decimal up first. 0 times. 88. I'm guessing that will be 3 times. 66. And then 2 and 2. What did I do wrong? So how about 22 times 4? 8 and 8. So let's say, how about 4 here? And make that 88. And let's just say we're done then. So 0.4 would be your final answer. All right. Just double check to make sure that I got that one right. 0.4. Good. All right, let's do a couple more here. On this page here, it's just, again, discussing it further. It's showing you summarize dividing by 0.01 now. So if you take a problem like 79.6 and you divide it by 0.01 or 1/100ths, that's the same as saying 7,960, which is equivalent to saying 100 times 79.6. Okay? Because you're moving it now 2 places right instead of 1 place. Before, when you moved it 1 place to right, it was 10. Now it's 100. Okay? So if you go down here a little bit further, dividing by 0.01 is equivalent to multiplying by 100 because there's our 100 small parts or hundredths in each value. All right, so again, here's this problem number 13, 79.6 over 0.01, equivalent to 79.6 over 0. All right, so where was I? 79.6 over 0.01 times 100 over 100, 79.6 times 100 over 0.1 times 100 is 7,960 over 1, which is 7,960. Okay? Looking at this in problem 14, you have 0.01 in the 79.6. You move the decimal 2 places to the right, and you move the decimal 2 places to the right. So if you look at the final here, you would have 1 into 7,960. All right? I'm just going to jump over this and do a couple of these problems. I'm going to isolate, sorry about that, let's isolate, well, let's just start with number 17. In your black notebook, copy this down, and I'll enlarge it a little bit here, and let's get started. All right, so here you have 0.01 into 40. Again, that's 0.01. You would take that times 100 now because the 1 is in 100's place. So if I move my decimal 2 places over, I'm right there. Inside the house, you have a decimal there, even though it's not. And I'm actually going to add 2 zeros now, or annex 2 zeros, because I really have to move it over 2 places. 1 and 2. So your final answer really should be 1 into 4,000. It's a good idea always to bring that decimal up right away. But you know your answer to be 4,000. Simple enough. Let's do one that is a little bit more difficult. Let's look at, let's say, 23 down here. So in your black notebook, please copy 23 down. And here we go. All right. We have 0.11 into 990. So the first thing we got to do is we got to move the decimals over. 1, 2. Decimals here. I have to annex a couple zeros. 1 and 2. So now I really have 11 into 900, excuse me, 99,000. Decimal right there. All right. So here we go. 9 goes into, 11 goes into 99 9 times. Okay. Subtract 0, bring down to 0. 11 goes into 0. 0 times, subtract, bring down the next 0. 0, subtract, bring down the final 0, and you get your answer of 9,000. 9,000 times 11 is 99,000. Okay? If you look at, there's 4,000 and then there's 9,000. Okay? All right, so homework 3-4 is rounding to the nearest tenth. So if you have a problem that you have 2 or 3 digits to the right of the decimal, they want you to round it to the nearest tenth. I'm going to guess at 4 and hope that it's one that has to round. We'll find out here. So I'll just do number 4 real quick. And let me just get this set up. All right, lock in place. All right, so here we have 0.5 into 0.94. The first thing you got to do is you got to move your decimal over, so it's really 5 into 9.4. Okay, first thing I do is I bring my decimal up so I don't forget. 5 goes into 9 once. 9 minus 5 is 4. Bring down the 4. 5 goes into 44 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract it. Bring down the 4. Annex a 0. 5 goes into 48 times. So you have 1.88. It wants you to round to the nearest tenth. The 8 is in the tenths place, and the 8 is in the hundredths. The 8 in the hundredths place tells the 8 in the tenths place to round up. So your final answer would be 1.9. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. And there you can see. Homework, you have some area problems, possibly a factor puzzle, I believe, number 1, and then some multiplication down here. Let's move on to 3.5. Page 93, so draw a line in your black notebook and write page 93, and we're going to be looking at, again, multiplication of decimals, exploring what happens when you multiply 4 by different numbers. So in your black notebook, page 93, and here we go. Don't have to copy anything down yet, but I just want to run through this. Greater, equal, or less. Explore what happens when you multiply 4 by different numbers. Case number 1. Multiply 4 by a number greater than 1. 4 times 1.5 would be 6. Okay? You have 1.5 units, 4 units. 4 times 1.5 is 6 units. Case number 2, if you multiply 4 by 1, and 4 times 1 is 4. 4 units, 1 units. In the box you have question mark square units. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped this part. Is the product less than or greater than or equal to 4? It would be greater because 6 is the product. Equal to because 4 is the product. Multiply 4 by a number less than 1. So they did 4 times 0.5 and end up with 2. 0.5 is 5/10, half of 4. 4 units, 0.5. 2 units, it'd be less than. Okay? Multiply 10 by 1, a number greater than 1, and a number less than 1. Tell how each product compares to 10. Numbers and products will vary. Students should find that the products are equal to, greater than, and less than 10 respectively. Multiply 10 by 1, a number greater than 1, and so same thing they did down here for number 3 and 4. All right, let's look at 5, and I do want us to solve this. It says for each problem, decide whether you need to multiply or divide, and then it wants you to solve it. A wallet size photo, a wallet size photo measures 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. What is the area of the wallet size photo? Area, length times width, it's a rectangle, so you'd be multiplying 2.5 inches times 3.5. So in your black notebook, write multiply. So for number 5, go ahead and write multiply. And then, you can barely read that. And then, what are we multiplying? 3.5 times 2.5. Now, when you have multiplication with decimals, you don't have to worry about the decimal until you finally get your final product. So forget, it's not like addition and subtraction where you have to bring it down right away. You wait. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry to 2. 5 times 3 is 15, plus the 2 would be 17. When I move over to the 2, I always like to add a 0 down here. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry to 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And you get your final answer here is 5, 7, and 8. Now, you can't stop there because the last thing you need to do is you need to look to see how many digits are behind each of these two decimals. There's 1 digit behind that decimal, 1 digit behind that decimal, so you have 2 digits. So then you would move your decimal 2 places to the left, which would get you 8.75 inches squared. Okay? Now, if you think about this, and you look at the 3 and you look at a 2, and if you were just going to multiply 3 times 2, your answer is 6. If you made this 3 and you made this 4, then you'd have 4 times 3, which is 12, and your answer of 8.7 is definitely in the middle of 6 and 12, just to kind of check your work. So you'll do the rest of them just like that. You can see multiply 8.75 square inches or inches squared, same thing. So then like the next one, Mr. Diaz paid $5.96 for 4 pounds of broccoli. What was the price per pound? What was the price per pound? To get that, you'd have to divide 4 into $5.96. You would get $1.49. All right, let's look at number 11 here. Amber earns $8.50 per hour bagging groceries. Josie, a cashier, earns 1.3 times as much as Amber. Does Josie earn more or less than Amber? How much does Josie earn? So with this particular problem, we have $8.50 per hour, and we have 1.3 times as much. So I would hope that the first thing you would think is that she earns more, which is true. And then you'd have to do the math. 8.50 times 1.3. Not worried about the decimals until you get to the end. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry to 1. 8 times 3 is 24 plus 1 is 25. And then like I said before, I like to bring my 0 down right away. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 8 times 1 is 8. 0, 5, 10, and 11. Now I count the number of decimals behind each digit, 1, 2, and 3. So then I move 1, 2, 3, which would make sense. If you took 8 times 1, you would end up with 8. If you took 9 times 1, you'd end up with 9. If you took 9 times 2, you'd end up with 18. $11.05. So on the line, $11.05. And you can see right here is the answer, $11 per hour, $11.05 per hour and more. Okay. 16, copy that one in your black notebook, please, page 96. Which is greater, 18 times 76 or 76 divided by 18? How do you know? Well, think about that. 18 times 76 or 76 divided by 18. Well, 18 times 76, you're multiplying. You're taking one number and you're multiplying it by another. When you take 76 and you're dividing it into 18 parts, you end up with a smaller number. So your answer would be that 18 times 76 would be a greater answer than 76 divided by 8. So if you look at the answer here, it says 18 times 76. In multiplication, we are finding 18 groups of 76. In division, we are breaking 76 into 18 groups. So that's what they're wanting you to write down for number 16. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, let's move on. All right, let's just look at a couple of these problems here. I'm just going to isolate, let's say, number 25. So in your black notebook, I'm just going to do a couple more, and then we'll be done for tonight. In 25, here's your problem. I'm just going to lock it real quick. And you have a 0.74 into 288.6. Got to get your decimal 2 places to the right. Got to do the same thing here. So I need to annex at least 1 0 and 1 and 2. I'm going to draw my line out. I always bring my decimal up so I don't forget it. Okay, and then now I start to work. 74 into 2, no. 74 into 28? No. 74 into 288? Yes. Okay. How many times? I'm guessing 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 is 22. Okay? So above this 8, I would put 3. Below, I put 2, 22, and then I do the math. Subtract 8, 6. 8 minus 2, 6. Bring down the next digit, which is a 6. I look at 74 and I say, okay, 74, 666, 4 times might be too large. We'll find out. 4 times 4 is 16. Well, actually, that was not going to be large enough, is it? I'm sorry. Let's take that back. I know that's not large enough. Let's go 74 times 9. That might be too big. 4 times 9 is 36. 7 times 9 is 63 plus 3, and it's exactly 66. So above this 6, you're going to put the 9. 666, 0. But you have one more digit you have to represent, the 0. And 74 goes into 0, 0 times, and now we're done. So 390, which if you think about it, 74, and you are taking in at 28,600. And if you look at 25, 390 is your answer. All right. Yeah, I think, that's pretty good, hopefully a pretty good understanding. Your homework for 3-5 would be you have a puzzle penguin, and you got to write a response back to them, and then some area or unknown sides, looks like a factor puzzle, some multiplying rounding to the nearest 10th. That concludes our Unit 3 lessons 4 and 5. Tomorrow in class, on Friday this would be, you will work on the problems related to 4 and 5. Have a good night.